The 5 Under 5 challenge this month is home decor dupes, and Missy from Crafty Cove and Emily from Farm Term Chic are our hosts. Guest host Christine from DIY Craftaholic. Settle in and enjoy. Oh, and channel links and a playlist link are in my description box. So this is their version, and my project number 1 is my version, and I call them scrap lumber pumpkin shelf sitters. 3 scraps of lumber, and mine are probably bigger than the WAYFAIR one, but it's what I had. And what I didn't have is an orange I liked to paint my pumpkins, so I played around with some chalk paint and acrylic paint until I was happy with what I saw. And then I went ahead and did front, back, and sides of all 3 pieces and helped them along in the drawing process. Now I toyed with the idea of putting paper on these like in the original, but I didn't have any paper that had like an orange plaid. I had green plaid, blue plaid, pink plaid, but no orangey plaid. So I just decided to, have some fun and do polka dots, lines, and like little chevron lines on the 3rd one. So there's my little polka dot one all done. And then there wasn't any rhyme or reason to the width of the stripes. I just made them even. Like once I decided on one, I made sure that the rest of them were the same. I think it was like two strands of tape in between. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I was going to do wavy lines on this one, and I wasn't sure how that would look. I felt like I needed like an in-between, something in between lines and dots. So I decided on this chevron shape. And I think I'm using a broken foam paintbrush. Probably like, I get them at the Habitat for Humanity store sometimes, and the Dollar Tree sometimes, but looks like it broke off the stick, and I'm just using it as a sponge, and it's working fine. And I actually set these aside to dry and don't get to them until the next day. And the paint was a little cracked because maybe it was too thick. Not a lot, and I decided to just go with it. In the meantime, with the painting set aside, I went ahead and cut 3 pumpkin stems out of this square dowel, and I just chose a length. I think it was like 2 inches or 2¼ inches. I just happened to have this dowel. I saw it at the Habitat for Humanity store one time, and I had all these round dowels but never square dowels, so I thought these were pretty cool. And it's a whole 50 cents for that like whole big long thing you saw. And again, I didn't like the brown I had, so I put 2 browns together. And sometimes I don't even bother mixing it because, it's sort of like an organic, natural look, because in nature the colors aren't flat and one-dimensional, so I tried to make it a little bit more natural. These are paint sticks. I think they're 14-inch paint sticks. You can get the 21-inch ones. Those are larger ones, and you can use either one. It's the tags. It's the word tags that's going to hang off of the stem, and it's pretty cool. I just did the typewriter font in Cricut, and when the paint sticks were dry, I cut them to size with a utility knife, and I made sure to leave some space at the beginning of the word so I could drill a hole to hang them off the pumpkin stem. This is like my favorite part. The word signs, the word tags are my favorite part of this whole project. I just think they're so cool. And it was really easy to with the Dollar Tree twine that I had, because it's really thin. And I just did a lark's head knot, or a loop knot, I guess. I do that. I do it the exact same for all three of them. And now I finally got to unwrapping this pumpkin, and I was pretty happy with how it came out. I decided not to fuss too much with where it did bleed through. I just kind of softened it with the sandpaper you saw there. But I decided not to bother painting in anything. And the same with the chevron. And it's not perfect. You can see the lines aren't totally parallel, but I think that's the whole fun of it. I decided to make mine more whimsical than the Waverly version. And it's not it's not an excuse for not doing it right or perfect. It's just to make it fun and not obsess over perfection and details. Okay, so I used wood glue, hot glue, got those stems on there, and then you see I have the little curly cues. I guess I made those off camera. And I also dabbed some of that copper paint on them. And I decided on the gold leaves instead of the gold flowers. The original has gold leaves, just different shape, like with pointed edges. And I tried cutting these, but it made them too small, so I decided to leave them the natural size. And then just a whole lot of twine wrapped around the pumpkin stem, because the original had a whole lot of twine wrapped around it. See, I'm trying to get a little bit close to the original. All right, once I wrapped it, I hot glued it on the back, and that's how the first one is done. There's the tag on it, thankful, and I'll show you all three together during the final reveal. Okay, so this is their version. They call it a ring sculpture set. I actually did the small piece back in May, but I didn't do a video of it. And now I'm going to do the large piece. I'm calling it a desktop wreath. And I have the 2 snakes, some 12-inch dowels, this birch bark looking ribbon, an old furniture pin, a piece of cardboard, because we're keeping it under 5. And I'm just using the plate as a template. And then that's a spare piece of lumber. I'm going to use it for the base, but you could also use those Dollar Tree things. You're just going to add an extra $1 onto your costs. So I thought it would look cool to use the furniture pin when I speed up the video. But this is the first time I've actually found an old furniture pin that actually works and that I actually like the color. So that was fun. All right, I thought this plate was about the same size as the other circle, but you know, by the time I was done, it was actually a little bit bigger, which turned out good in the long run. I just didn't realize it yet. So I'm going to take that cardboard circle, and I'm just going to use plain old Elmer's wood glue, because the snake toys are made out of wood, and that's what we're going to attach to the cardboard. The first time when I made the smaller one, I used Mod Podge, but the plasticky ribbon just didn't want to stay put, and I ended up having to glue it anyway. So this time we're just using the glue, and we're just smoothing it down. And actually, one of those off camera, I had to lift it up and put it back down again a couple minutes later, and it was totally perfectly fine. There were no ribbon, there were no wrinkles, no big spots like where deposits of glue might have stuck underneath. I mean, it just came out perfect. This is that spare piece of lumber. I'm just cutting it to size. I could have left it a little bit longer for a more stable base, but I didn't realize I was going to embellish this so much. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the excess ribbon off now that it's dried. Yeah, you want to wait till it's totally dried, and it just comes off so easy. Well, it is a nice thing about the fabric, whatever that ribbon is actually made out of, I'm not sure. And once I get it all trimmed up there, I'm going to go ahead and use hot glue to attach the snakes onto it. The snakes have to be like to get them the right size, you just wiggle them and like they pull apart. You just choose a hinge area and then you just wiggle it in that one area and it comes apart. So the little ones look away. And I set the heads and tails to the side. And then I do have to take off a little bit more here. You can also use a utility knife that cuts the fabric that's inside that actually holds all the little hinges together. So yeah, it's pretty easy to get it cut to size. And once I like how full it is, I go ahead and set that off to the side. And I use my largest drill bit to make a hole big enough for the dowel. Now, even though the dowel fits snugly in there, I do go ahead and use hot glue because I don't want that going anywhere. If that accidentally falls off the desk or falls off the table, I do not want everything separating, so I did it like that. Now, you choose how much of the dowel you want to be behind the circle. The previous one, I did it almost all the way to the top. This one, I only did it halfway. And that just makes it a little bit longer as well. And again, I wasn't even aware that I was making it larger, but it worked out. It worked out well. I made sure to get my glue finger on there because the hot glue comes right through the burlap. And I think I already had a blister at this point, so I was trying to be careful. And I did just kind of like forming, you know, like molding it over the dowel. And once I was happy that it wasn't going anywhere, I go ahead and cut down my purple leaves, my lavender sticks, and I think that's boxwood. If I had to do it again, I wouldn't use that greenery. I would just use the leaves and the lavender. But I just like the way they look together. It's just so pretty. So basically all I'm doing here is after cutting them to size, I put just like a little dab of hot glue and then a whole bunch of, well, not a whole bunch of twine, but I wrapped it with twine. I didn't use any wire or anything. And I hot glue that to the top. And I also put a small popsicle stick on the front of the base so it wouldn't tip forward. And I'm going to show you what the two rings look like together during the final reveal. I'm just putting a bow at the top there before I finish. Now this is their embossed wall decor. And project number 3 will be my version, the hot glue embossed wall decor. So I decided to use a pizza pan as the blank. I sand it and use some rubbing alcohol to clean it. I do that on any project that's going on metal. I'm using a copper metallic chalk paint and then some blue and turquoise acrylic paint. And to begin with, I'm just going to do what I call like a color base coat. And then I'll do the embossing and then I'll do a top, like a color top coat. So the original had the copper on the outside edge and that was pretty easy to remember. So I'm just gonna let you watch for a little bit. And I'm trying to work fast here because I wanted the colors to be wet when they blend in with the next color I'm putting down. Now I'm doing a little oopsie here, and I'll point it out in just a second. I do fix it. And if you notice the picture of their version at the beginning, it does not look like this. And I was doing it, and like in my mind, I'm like, something doesn't seem right. And I didn't have their version to look at while I was painting because it was on my phone. And I use my phone for recording. Okay, there we go. So it's supposed to be darker in the middle, and I went back off camera and fixed that. So got my base coat down, my color base coat down, and here I come with the embossing. I actually put a gold glue stick in, and I squirted out some of the clear. And the reason I wanted to do this is, for one, because I've never used colored glue sticks, but also it seemed cool to have the glue, the embossing glue, be that color, because then if I messed up with any of the final coloring of the embossing, the gold would show through. So it seemed like a good idea. You'll notice me picking things up off the pan. I'm actually picking up the little spider webs, the little whispery edges of the glue. I did try and touch the nozzle of the glue gun onto the pan, but when I didn't, it created those little feathery strands that I had to pick up. And I'll also take care of them at the end as well with the heat gun. Now here I start doing the dry brushing, and I just used the foam brush because it already had the color on it. So you'll notice I rubbed the foam brush off on some paper towel, and then with very little pressure, if any at all, rubbed it over the glue to color the lines. You'll see how I just kind of going over them, trying to make them visible. And then I'm coming in with the heat gun, and that's just to get everything set down onto it, because some of the edges were lifting, and also with those whispery strands, this will sort of melt them down. I know it's not exactly like the WAYFAIR version, and maybe if I had some white acrylic paint it would have blended better, but I'll give you a better look at the whole thing in the final reveal. Their version, and then project number 4 is my version, eggs and bacon, or chicken and pig, however you want to say it. So to do this project, I am using some peel and stick wallpaper and these galvanized wall hangings that I got at Dollar Tree, and then some Cricut words that I made on my Cricut. I actually had to redo the pig, so you'll see me doing the pig, but at the end, the backing and painting have been redone because I messed it up trying to do a stencil. So just if it looks different, that's why. So here I am doing the chicken, and basically just peeling and setting it down on top of it. And then I put it on my cutting mat, and I used a utility knife, and I like to pull the knife out a little bit so it's flexible, and it makes it easier to get around the curves, because there was no way I was going to be able to use scissors to cut this, because I try and use scissors if at all possible, but this one just had a lot of nooks and crannies and round edges and everything, so this is what worked. And then of course I go in and sand after, as I do with anything that I put a coating on, or a backing, or paper, or whatever. It just looks so much better if you just go over it with sandpaper, and it makes it fit perfectly. So there you'll see the pig has been painted, but that's the one that I messed up. But basically what I did is painted the peel and stick wallpaper after I put it on it to make it closer to the color in the original. And then if you want, I'm just showing you, you can change the lines in the shiplap style. And I did that by putting 2 pieces of tape with just a very, very small gap. And then made up a color close to what I saw in the original. And then just very, very slowly taking my time, peel off the tape. Because that's what messed me up when I tried to do the pig before. And we'll see how nice and slow I'm going here. And this is actually sped up, so yeah. All right, so it's coming to words now. These words were painted because I didn't have any brown or black vinyl, so I painted white vinyl and left it overnight. But it still messed it up as far as getting it off the transfer tape. So I actually ended up doing one letter at a time. Then for the word fresh, I had to come in with my brown acrylic paint marker and fill in the spots that just didn't come up. So you see the word fresh is already on there. And then this is Dollar Tree vinyl I'm using because of Cricut vinyl. I mean, I was just like grasping at straws. Cricut vinyl wasn't working as well as I hoped, so I had Dollar Tree vinyl tucked away, so I got that out and tried to use it. I find the vinyl is a lot flimsier, but it's not necessarily any better or worse. And just a slow wiggle, and I was able to get the whole word this time. So I was quite happy with that. Then bacon, I just left as is. This is how it came out of the Cricut, and I decided I was not going to mess around with any more paint. I didn't want to redo anything more. And so I just took my time, got the word bacon on there. And the white vinyl that I used is pretty close to what was in the original, so I was happy with my decision. And see, it wasn't like an easy pull. I did have to hold down the letters, but I was able to get the transfer tape off, and then I came back in and did some weeding. And even the weeding was... And lastly, this is their version. And project number 5 is my version, Flowers on the Wall. These are metal votive candle holders in the shape of a flower. And when I saw the flowers on the WAYFAIR site, I knew that I could use them to make something similar. But a little different, a little, maybe a little more artistic, just a little more to it. And this is probably the most expensive of all the projects. $1 each for the flowers, plus $1 for this board that I'm going to use to hang it, and another $1 for the rub-on transfers. So that's $5. So I was going to spray paint them white and then paint them a gray concoction, but I ran out of white, so I found some gray and I spray painted the board and all 3 flowers. And now I was just digging through my stash, seeing what I could add on to it, and I found these rub-on transfers that I hadn't used yet, and I thought, oh, how pretty, because it's not in your face, but it's going to just add a little extra element. After I was done with that, I believe I mixed up like black, white, gray, and a little bit of red, because in the original picture, the middle is darker. And then since I didn't have silver paint, just gray, I decided to like almost cartoonish paint the edges of the top petals of the flower white, because if you notice in the picture there, that's where a big reflection is from the silver. So it's basically like a fake reflection, and did the exact same thing for all 3 flowers. I'm showing you the first one here, and I believe I did 2 coats of that. And this is the Arteza paint. This is a little bit different than the normal acrylic paint I use. This is Arteza, and it's a gloss finish instead of a matte, like my Magic Fly acrylic paints. All right, so I did not do the back of them. I didn't feel the need to, and I didn't have a whole lot of paint. So once these were done, I actually noticed there was a hole in the back. I didn't even realize. So I threaded the jute cord through the hole, and then I tied a knot and brought it up to the back of the board and used my heavy duty stapler to staple it in there. And I just kind of played with the length of the strings there, the length of the twine. And once I decided on how I wanted it to be, like longer, all different lengths, or shorter in the middle, once I decided that, I just trimmed it accordingly and decided to leave the two on the outside edges. And now we have the final reveal. And these are the pumpkins with the tags. And some lovely close-ups. I love those tags. It's like my favorite part. And our desktop wreaths. This is pretty. That picture is my favorite. And our artistic glue embossed art piece. Eggs and bacon. And last but certainly not least, we were back to those flowers. And I just love how they turned out. They pop really nicely on a white wall like that. So, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and give me a big thumbs up. See you soon.